Hello, everybody, and welcome to the PHLY Eagles podcast on a Wednesday morning, 10:01 a.m. Zach Berman in the basically twilight of his day. He's probably been cranking and been up since 5 a.m. reading everything that's going on with the Eagles. Bo Wulf here, happy to talk to you. We were going to talk a little bit about the reasons for optimism about this Eagles team at 10-3, coming off back-to-back losses. We spent some time in the Negadelphia on Monday. We talked to Fletcher Cox and Brian Baldinger yesterday. We're going to try to be a little bit more positive today, also taking your questions at the end of the show. So if you've got some questions you want us to answer in the chat, ask away. Zach, how are you?
Doing great. Excited for the show. Wednesday show. We don't typically do this on Wednesday.
That's
so
true.
It's like a bonus episode for me. I get to spend more time with you and Julia, which is always a pleasure. And much to discuss.
Much to discuss. Why don't you hit us with the Stone Cold Newsman? We had a chance to talk to Nick Sirianni yesterday. What were the big takeaways from your end?
Well, if you were hoping or expecting or wishing for any type of changes, whether it was play calling or even duties, that's not occurring. And
Your very first question, hot off the top rope from Tim McManus. Are you considering a change in terms of the play caller?
Yeah.
And listen, Tim is as plugged in as it gets. So when he leads off with something like that, you're like, "Ooh, what does Tim know?
Has he been hearing?
What's
something?
Tim hearing?"
And Nick quickly says no. And when Nick doesn't have like 3 paragraphs for you, it means
and that I thought set the tone of the press conference. Nick was very defensive for the first third of the press conference. Like we're 10-3 team. Let's calm down here.
And I think that was intentional. I think the messaging from NovaCare is not as much like, man, these past 2 games have been bad. It's, man, we're 10-3. What's everyone so worried about, right? And then he says they need to coach better, they need to play better, all of that. That's fairly clear. We knew that. Nick didn't have anything, I think, substantive in terms of how they're going to fix it. The thing that he accurately pointed out was the turnover differential, that they're -4 right now. What were they, plus 14 at this time last year?
That's what he said.
Yeah, I would have to look that up too. But that goes to show you, and that's a high variance stat, right? We'll get to this later in the show, by the way. But you used to kind of mock Jonathan Gannon last year when
Sirianni.
Yeah, when he would say like they coach this better.
They laugh at the idea that this could possibly be luck related.
Yeah.
Like we emphasize it, and so it happens. That is not how it works.
Yeah. So sometimes the ball, falls out of your hands like it did 3 times against the Cowboys. Now it's happened 7 games in a row with Jalen Hurts. I asked specifically about that, and not all lost. And Nick did correctly point out that fumble stats with quarterbacks can be a little iffy because a quarterback exchange, it gets credit to the quarterback when maybe Swift didn't take it. But 7 games in a row is notable, and Jalen is up there.
That is of those 7, I think maybe 2 are ones that are like, oh, it just happens to be on the quarterback. I mean, he has been sloppy with the ball, and he has always been sloppy with the ball.
Yeah, he is among the quarterbacks who fumble the most. Now, not necessarily fumble the most per touch, but fumble the most. And the ball was in his hands every play. So
I remember this was a Carson Wentz thing too. Do you remember this? And I remember asking him about it. We had one of those sit downs with him before the season started, and you've got all these great stats over the course of your first few years. One of the few things that is not good is you fumble a lot. It's are you doing anything about that? It's I don't know. And I don't know. I don't know why there's the connectivity there, but their quarterbacks fumble a lot. They shouldn't fumble so much. Maybe it's just because they're guys who are trying to make plays with their legs, right? And so they're in open fields more. But I don't know. Jalen Hurts gets fumbles when he gets sacked too.
Yeah, I think the quarterbacks who get hit the most. A matter of fact, as I was looking at the quarterback as the fumbling stats, the one name that was surprising to see, because you have some obvious ones there, your Josh Allen's, Jalen Hurts, guys who run the ball. But in the past 3 seasons, among the top 5, actually tied with Jalen Hurts, is Matt Ryan.
Oh, interesting.
Who was benched last year,
right.
Hasn't played this year, and it goes to show he probably got sacked a lot with the Falcons and then with the Colts at the beginning of last year.
You never miss an opportunity to throw your old nemesis under the bus.
Matt Ryan's not my nemesis. I have great respect actually for Matt Ryan. He did strike. Well, it's up for debate whether he struck me out. I struck out against Penn Charter. He did pitch. I'm not sure if it was specifically against me. It's been 20 plus years. It's been actually, that's my junior year, his senior year. So that it's been 20 years at this point.
Are there guys who knocked him around? You guys won that game, right?
Yeah, I can safely say
so
that.
Did
I
Pete
never
Vernon,
lost. We never lost to Matt Ryan.
The gap?
Yeah, we never
gap
lost to Matt
Ryan.
Ryan. Sean Grave played real well in those games. I'm confident to say that. We don't have to. I don't want to be like glory days reliving.
Listen, you want to throw Matt Ryan under the bus? I want to know who
certainly
tagged
not
him.
throwing Matt Ryan under the bus. Matt Ryan was awesome in 3 sports: football, basketball, and baseball. But moving on with the conversation here,
did you guys beat them in basketball?
Not his senior year. They had a loaded team. Sean Singletary, Rob Kerr, Zach Zeklinski. But
maybe you guys had Matt Walsh.
But that was Matt Ryan's junior year.
Oh, okay.
So Matt Walsh's senior year. Anyways, we don't have to relive
I feel
interact
like this is your
sports
dream, yeah.
from 2002, 2003, 2004. We can talk.
This is the bonus show.
It's the bonus show. We can talk Sirianni from yesterday, and he was asked about Derek Gunn's report and didn't have much to say on it other than like the coaches don't think they're predictable right now. Now, I imagine that.
I mean, I feel like the coaches should feel like they're predictable. You would want the coaches to know what's coming next, right? You don't want them to be. I'm going to call this play.
Yeah. But the idea that like the players don't think they have creativity, I think
Nick
the coaching
is like
staff,
shocked by what Brian Johnson has called in. It's like, oh my god.
No, but in terms of creativity, now I understand along with that, motion rate is something that fans are getting on. The Eagles did have more motion against Dallas. I'll say Nick's philosophy is he doesn't like the motion for the sake of motioning. He likes motioning with a purpose.
But the whole point of that, I don't mean to cut you off.
No.
But he doesn't want motion for motion's sake. Then okay, find a reason to use it. Like put it in for the sake of something, for getting DeVonta Smith into a more advantageous matchup or something like that. Like just because you don't use it that way doesn't mean it's not the right way to use it. Now, probably mid-season, they're not going to just go back to the drawing board and figure it out. This has never been Sirianni's MO on offense, right? His first year, we were talking about this. They were dead last in the league in motion rate. So, for whatever reason, it's not something that he tries to really take advantage of. But that doesn't mean that it's like not something that he should get back to the drawing board on in the offseason.
And this might be a Coach Flynn question. Coach Flynn, what's up if you're watching? But my understanding from talking to various people about motion is you're not doing it as much to get a matchup as you are to get information on the defense. Do you disagree with that?
Well, I think that's part of it. Okay. I think that's that's why like Sirianni uses it.
Yeah.
I think the Kyle Shanahans of the world are
trying to isolate you on.
Well, yeah, it's a much more advanced level. They know what they're doing.
Yeah. So I am curious to see if they are reactionary about this because look, D Gunn is awesome and he's plugged in and he's not making that up, right? Someone told him that. So now it doesn't mean that it's true, but certainly if that sentiment's there, I do think it's important in general for coaches to, and you're probably not surprised that I say this, but to be open to criticism, like not to be confident in what you do, but not closed-minded to the idea that there's only one way of doing it, or that it can't evolve or improve throughout the course of the season. Now, that doesn't mean that you need to react to everything that's said, but sometimes things that are said have merit. So, curious to see. They do have that extra day here. They have time to take a look. I think the overall sentiment is don't overreact to these 2 games, and whether that is the proper way to do it, like maybe the proverbial panic button, maybe they should push that. Maybe there should be a sense in that building of like being having your backs up, being worried about what's going on. Now, I can say from what I heard in the locker room, Nick was fairly spirited at halftime. And they did play better in the second half. I mean, the defense didn't let up a touchdown in the second half. But
I feel like if the
game
Cowboys
was
really
okay.
wanted to score a touchdown, they could have scored a
it
touchdown.
was what, 24-6 at that point?
Yeah.
Fair enough. So those were some of the big takeaways from Nick. But
He was also defensive about the line of questioning on all the targets going to Dallas
good
Goedert,
point.
AJ Brown, and DeVonta Smith. You could see that was more of like a facial expression one, where once the question started, it's like, what are we supposed to do? Throw it to? Am I supposed to throw it to Quez Watkins? Like Julio Jones? Come on. But he's like, yeah, I've always said the offense is going to flow through these guys, and he has always said that. But that doesn't mean all or nothing. Like, come on.
Yeah. 2 notes here, right? And I've said this to you before. I love your impression of every aggrieved coach is the same, basically, no matter who it is.
Yeah, I've got about 4 impressions.
Yeah. Second, I don't totally disagree with him because, all right, so if I'm in Nick Sirianni's shoes, if I'm answering the question, if we do the mock press conference, there's a part of me that says, you're telling me before I need to throw the ball to DeVonta more.
Right, you would get on me if we were throwing
Exactly.
up with like Olamide Zaccheaus had 6 targets. And,
exactly.
Jack Stoll had 3, but like there is a bit of a middle ground.
Sure, there is a bit of a middle ground. And the reality is AJ needs to catch it and DeVonta needs to catch their targets. I mean, there was a period of time this year when DeVonta was catching 80% of his targets, right? So
my actual biggest issue with the target disparity, and there have been a few here and there, but like it does feel like they are wasting the running back in the passing
I like
game.
that.
Now,
You're right.
Now, a lot of times they're asking those guys to stay in and block, but we heard so much in the summer about how they targeted running backs the lowest rate in the league last year, and here comes DeAndre Swift, and they were going to make him a big part of the passing game. And that just hasn't happened.
And the whole thing about how he has receiver hands, like he catches it like a receiver. You're right. And that's another thing that they showed in the summer that hasn't translated. And sometimes you kind of fall back to what you know. And maybe in Jalen's case, that's the case as well. I am curious what they're saying to Jalen behind closed doors in that regard. But you're right, because Jalen does have, I mean, he's ultimately the one deciding who's getting throws. And you've accurately pointed out that there are times when some of these secondary targets are open and he's either not throwing to them or he's looking to his primary guys.
And it just sort of feels like the offense itself has not really evolved since 2021 when it was the same thing. We were complaining about there wasn't enough running backs in the passing game. There wasn't enough motion. It's just that the talent has gotten so much better. And these guys are not running free. They're just really good in making contested catches.
So I think it's evolved since 2021. I mean, they won in 2021 by basically not having Jalen do much and by running the ball, but maybe it hasn't evolved since last year so much.
Well, that's what I mean. Yeah. The shape and design of the passing game, I don't think has changed that much.
Yeah, certainly since AJ's been there. Now, you asked a good question about them being tired, and Nick's response is like, everyone's tired.
Well, yeah, but he didn't, because I asked, from the outside, we're thinking like, you guys are tired. This has been a tough stretch, and played 90 snaps against the Bills. But you have access to like the player tracking data. Are you seeing that the guys are tired? And he definitely did not answer that part because he didn't want to get into that, and instead was just sort of talking about they are tired. And he said he didn't do a good job getting them enough rest before the last game, which that's him just taking one for the team, I think. But
I think that's kind of ridiculous. I mean, if they practiced any less, they wouldn't practice at all at this point, right? So unless you treat every game like a Thursday game.
But he did acknowledge that they're like, I thought that was interesting that he sort of let that in. He acknowledged that they're tired.
Yeah, and look, Nick's trying not to make excuses here. I respect that as like a man, or as a human, not to make excuses. But the basis of your question is they've had this back-to-back really tough games. They're in like a tough traveling stretch here, right? They had a late game against Kansas City. Then they're home against San Fran. So there's just been more like you're on the road. You have these late games. You had Thanksgiving in there. Like there's been. It seems like the bye week was a year ago, right? So I get it, and I have spoken to players who say to me, like, they are tired. They are tired, and it's just normal.
I mean, aren't you tired?
I'm exhausted. Yeah. Now, I will say, like, there's two differences here between on the plus side and the minus side. Okay, I'm not out there playing, which is the most important distinction to make. Okay. But the flip side, and I've talked about this with like players, is I'm flying commercial, which is like a fundamentally different thing. The whole airport experience is totally different than we've been open on the show. You worked for the team a decade ago.
Yeah,
and
I always said that. People say, "Did you miss working for the team?" And I said, "I miss being on the team playing." Yeah,
yeah. Like I in speaking to some employees, sometimes they're like, "What we do is not actual." Like travel, you show up, you get on the plane. There's just something waiting for you. You know, the travel for the reporter, the fan going to the game is a much different experience than for the players.
I would also say, and please don't take offense to this, you are not a world-class athlete.
I'm not taking offense to that. I will gladly acknowledge that. Yes,
whereas they are, and so they've got like. An ecosystem of people working on their bodies.
Yeah. Now, I will say too,
they also probably sleep a little bit.
In their defense, like it is harder for them to be on a plane than it is for me to be on a plane.
True.
Right? Like my body type is more conducive for a plane than Jordan Mailata's body type, let's say. Now their planes are configured differently. They have their own rows, but nonetheless, if you're 6'8", 350 pounds, and you're sitting and you're going to Seattle and you're sitting on that plane for 6 hours,
tough.
It probably affects you differently than it does me.
Probably fair to say. All right. Well, if you want to get on a commercial airplane and fly out to the Pacific Northwest on a Monday night, check out that Eagles Seahawks game. You can go to Game Time because buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun that you will have. They've got flash deals and last-minute tickets. Easy to find and buy tickets for every kind of event in your area. Images of seat views, lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, job loss protection, and more. It is the fastest-growing ticketing app in the country for a reason. Get images of your seat before you buy so you know exactly what to expect. Buy tickets in a matter of seconds. Just
2 taps.
And you're set. Tickets are sent directly to your phone so you never have to dig through your email. And tickets make great holiday gifts. Snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code PHLY for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code PHLY for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
Now, I tell you guys about Wheelhouse Cards every day, and it's because I believe in the product. I'm not just giving you an ad read. It's something I believe in. I'm a customer, and the best thing I can say is that I'm a customer more before I'm rating their copy here, and it's all true what they say. Wheelhouse is the go-to sports card gift and apparel shop in the Delaware Valley. Their motto is Cards and Community because love of sports unites us all. They carry all of your favorite card brands like Topps, Chrome Baseball, and Mosaic Football, as well as t-shirts, hats, and hoodies from brands like Mitchell Ness, 47 Brand, Junk Food, Starter, and Shy Vintage Sports. On my way here, I actually got an alert on my phone that my package from Shy Vintage Sports is arriving today. So I am a customer of Shy Vintage Sports. If you're looking forward to your sports card collection, Wheelhouse offers PSA grading submissions. They also host tons of different family-friendly events and birthday parties every month. Stop into either of their stores in Wayne or Westchester. Open 7 days per week at 11 a.m. Use code PHLY. It gets you $10 off any purchase of $25 or more in store. Also, be sure to follow them on Instagram at Wheelhouse Cards. Now, real quick, by the way, we were talking about travel and fans traveling and players traveling, and there's a report out or multiple reports out. I saw one from Jonathan Jones at CBS Sports, one from Adam Schefter at ESPN. They both do a great job covering the league. That the league is going to announce today an additional international game, one next year in Brazil. And I think it will raise it to 7 international games. I need to look at the report. Nonetheless, pay attention to the Eagles next year playing internationally. The Eagles have an extra home game next year. They haven't given up a home game for an international game yet. The purpose of why it's not the purpose of the 17th game, but one of the conditions of the 17th game is that you have to give up a home game every 8 years, I believe, for international games. So there's more inventory. The Eagles haven't done it. The Eagles have interest in going overseas, and they have that extra game to give up, so they're not violate or they're not going against their deal with the city of having the 8 home games already.
There was also international interest in the Eagles.
Exactly.
And as you are going to say, they haven't played since 2018.
Yep, since 2018. So Brazil, I don't know. Now, Brazil, the team that has international rights to Brazil is Miami. That doesn't mean the Eagles couldn't go there. There's games obviously in Germany next year, in London next year.
What about
I believe
Doha?
Mexico City. I don't believe there are any teams that have international rights to Doha, but maybe so.
Not until you're commissioner.
Yeah, I would like a game in Doha. That'd be awesome. I mean, I want to see the world. I hope I'm going to these games. I want to see the world. Yeah, the countries that the Eagles have international rights to. The Eagles have international rights in Australia / New Zealand, I believe, and then I don't want to say all of Africa, but
I thought it was specifically Ghana.
yeah, specifically Ghana. Yep. Now, neither of those markets have international games next year. So it would be in Germany or in London or in Mexico City or in Brazil. But I would certainly pay attention to that. I doubt they announced the team yet. The schedule comes out in April, in May. But certainly be on the lookout there.
What would be your top pick of the options?
Well, I've been to London to cover an Eagles game. Okay, 2018. I've never been to Germany before. I would like to go to Germany. I've never been to Mexico City before. I would like to go to Mexico City. I've never been to Brazil before. I would like to go to Brazil. My top choice would probably be Brazil. Yeah. Although Germany sounds fascinating. Like I would love to see Germany. So, I mean, I'd be happy with any of them. Even Mexico City. Mexico City, the commute would probably.
Even Mexico City.
What?
Uh-oh.
Mexico City, the commute would probably be the easiest of any of them.
Yes.
I imagine so. You can probably get a good direct flight. The time zone isn't as significant of a change.
Germany's not too bad either.
Yeah. I mean, I got messed up.
Brazil time zone you're sticking, but it's a longer flight.
I got messed still. The time zone messes me up, man. I mean, when we were in London, I was all over the place. I was up at 2 a.m. I was sleeping at 8 at 9.
How is that any different than any day of your life?
No, but I was like sleeping. I remember taking a long nap. And I'm like, I'm only in London for 2 days here. I don't want to spend it in my hotel room, but I was exhausted. And then I did the Ferris wheel. Shout out to Tom.
The Ferris wheel.
I went to Buckingham Palace. Not inside, but outside.
They didn't invite you in?
I saw the changing of the guards.
Okay.
I wanted to go to a soccer game, as you did, as Jeff McClain did.
Yeah.
There was a Fulham game there. You went to the Brighton game.
Yeah, we went down to the South Coast, took a train.
I was hoping there'd be a Tottenham game or a Chelsea game or an Arsenal game, but alas, there was not.
Alas.
Yes.
All right, let's get into this draft, Zach. We're gonna do the reasons to feel good about the Eagles as they head into this final 4-game stretch of the regular season ahead of the playoffs. Want to do rock paper scissors for first pick? How do you want to do this? What do you think we're gonna do? Like 4 each?
Yeah, I'll let you go first.
How generous of you.
Yeah. I want to see what optimism's like from you.
Okay. I'm going to start, and I'm going to just lean into the odds here. Okay. You look at the final 4-game stretch. We can all appreciate how much easier the path to the Super Bowl would be if the Eagles were able to get the number 1 seed. You get the bye for this tired team. You get potentially just 2 games at home. And you look at just the lines of the final 4 games for the 3 competitors for the number 1 seed. The Eagles are 3.5-point favorites this Monday night against the Seahawks. And then right now, they're 10.5-point favorites, 13.5-point favorites, and 13.5-point favorites for the final 3 games.
Vegas is not buying the DeVito hype.
They are not at the moment. Dallas are underdogs heading into their trip to Buffalo this week, 2.5-point underdogs. Then they are 1.5-point underdogs against the Dolphins the following week, and then just 4-point favorites against the Lions and 7-point favorites after that. The Niners are 14-point favorites this week, but then just 4.5-point favorites against the Ravens, 10.5 and 9.5. You add all those up, you calculate it, and the odds of these teams going 4-0 over the final 4 games. The Cowboys just 10.7%. The Niners 43.3%. The Eagles 44.9%. A little tiny tick above the San Francisco 49ers. Now it's still less than 50% that they go 4-0, but all they got to do is take care of business, right? Now, maybe not. Maybe the Niners will go 4-0, but if they can win this game and then sort of settle things down, you can sort of like rationally feel good about that possibility. Just very, very down the middle.
Yeah. Look, I like it when you bring Vegas in there, and I think it shows you that you need to pick your head up at the end of the season and not in week 15. So well done there.
I mean, that's not well done. It's just, was it just the facts?
So the Eagles have 10 wins, as you've heard Nick Sirianni say, as you heard Fletcher Cox say. That should not be dismissed. I put a tweet out last night after the Jets game when they were 5-1. You looked at their next 7 games.
It's one of my new favorite Zach-isms. Is I put a tweet out. That's right. Yeah, referencing sure. Your own. Yeah, it's good. You got to make your content work for you.
Exactly. Yeah. That's exactly what it is. Like literally, I'm not there to help Twitter. I'm there to help PHLY, to help our brand. So yeah, and I got a lot of responses. Like people were actually expecting. Now I kept hearing the way they lost, and I'm not dismissing that. The way they lost did matter. But you're sitting here at 10-3. You couldn't reasonably expect to be much better from my perspective. And by the way, if you look at the historical precedent of Super Bowl teams, the Eagles are actually in a real good shape. Last year's Super Bowl team, the Kansas City Chiefs, you know what they were right now?
I'm going to guess 10-3.
10-3. The year before that, the Los Angeles Rams, 9-4. The year before that, the Tampa Bay Bucks, 8-5. The year before that, the Kansas City Chiefs, 9-4. The year before that, the New England Patriots, 9-4. A matter of fact,
what were their point differentials?
Well, that's much different here, and I actually don't have that here, and I will look that up. But you have to go back to the 2017 Eagles to find the last team that had a better record than the Eagles through 13 games that won the Super Bowl. My point is this. Every team that wins the Super Bowl, perhaps other than the 2017 Eagles, has either the burn the tape game or a period in their season where you're just going through it, right? It's not ideal for you. We certainly saw that with the Bucs in 2020. I mean, they had a loss to New Orleans that year. It was like 31-3 or 38-3. Like my point being that you're sitting here at 10-3. You have 4 winnable games in front of you here. You've played this really difficult schedule. You've proven you can beat Super Bowl caliber teams, at least teams that I think are Super Bowl caliber teams. So if you're looking for a reason for optimism, their record's good. Their quality of wins are good. If there was a selection committee, if there wasn't a postseason, there was a selection committee, and you looked at the Eagles' overall resume here, let's say, yeah, they're like a 1 seed or a 2 seed in like the NCAA tournament, right? You know, where you have 4 1 seeds. They'd be like the last 1 or the first 2, and that's pretty good.
Okay. Unless they had an injury and then the committee would leave them out despite their record.
That's true.
Okay. I'm going to give you just another sort of down the middle thing that we know that is obvious, and that is offense matters most. This team has more talent than almost any team in the league on offense, and they are not going to continue to struggle like they have the past couple of weeks. Now, part of that is because they're going to be facing a schedule of not very good defenses, but even entering the postseason, you've got Jalen Hurts, you've got A.J. Brown, you've got DeVonta Smith, you got Dallas Goedert, you got this offensive line that we think can come together, and you just have to believe in the power of that offense, right? And I think there are some reasons to be optimistic about the defense because they can't be quite as bad as they have been the last 2 weeks. But if you just bring in a little bit of luck, the red zone offense was bad in the first quarter of the season, great in the second quarter of the season. pretty good in the third quarter of the season until the last 2 games. If they are, if they're converting at like a 65% clip, you feel pretty good about that. The turnovers, you hope you get a little bit of nice, variance coming back your way. Just a little bit of luck. In the power of the offense, I don't know. That's pretty much all I got there.
Well, their offense, if you're a believer in Jalen Hurts, and the Eagles have, I hate keep bringing up this number here, but they have 250 plus million reasons why they're believers in Jalen Hurts.
You can go into the playoffs believing you have the best quarterback in the conference.
Yes. And you can go in believing you have a quarterback who can win you big games because he's done it before and he's played his best on the biggest stage. There's reason for confidence in having that quarterback who can make plays in January for sure.
Okay.
So mine here, and you mentioned turnover variance. Eagles have a -4 turnover ratio. Turnovers, despite what Jonathan Gannon and Nick Sirianni might have told you last year, it is a luck-based statistic, right? The Eagles, and I would say of their turnovers, they have 9 fumbles lost this year. I think fumbles in particular are a luck-based between
it's not
turnovers
about, it's about the fumble recovery rate.
Yes.
That is luck-based.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
They have fumbled. I think they're like tied for 16th in the league in amount of fumbles, but they're 8th worst in the league in fumbles lost. So it's just a little bit unlucky.
9 fumbles lost. Yeah. So I don't think like DeVonta Smith and AJ Brown don't know how to hold the football, and these aren't guys who fumble the ball a lot. Now, as I said, Jalen Hurts has fumbled it in 7 consecutive games. But I think of all the things you can improve, I think turnover variance is. I don't think that's a sticky stat, to use that term, right? Like I don't think I think you can fix that pretty quickly, and I don't think that's something. Yeah. So if you're looking for a reason for optimism, they're -4 right now in turnovers, and I think that variance can go the other way pretty quickly.
Okay. I'm gonna give you like a just a vibes one. Okay. It's like you talked about with Doug Peterson the other day about how he was always better playing the underdog card. All of a sudden now the Eagles are coming off these 2 blowout losses. Nick Sirianni can lean into, he had to make up reasons to say nobody believes in us before. Now it's like, PHLY did a show on Monday about I might get fired. Like, this is ridiculous.
By the way, we didn't say he might get fired. We talked about.
Yeah.
You want to explain what it was?
Correct. We said we just wondered if things got really bad, could that happen? That was the discussion. This is now, this is like, okay, now it's us against the world again. We can bunker down, lock arms with each other, and that Niners team that punched us in the face, that Cowboys team that punched us in the face. We are like we're seeing red, and we have one goal, and it's to get vengeance on both of these teams. And we've got Haason, Reddick, and Josh Sweat frothing at the mouth if we can just get there. And AJ Brown's going to run over these guys, and I don't know. That's pretty much it.
Okay, yeah, it's I'm not a vibes guy, to be honest with you.
Me neither, really. But
it's not really a term that I use like that.
This is a hard exercise for me.
I can tell. That's why. Look, I believe in having a growth mindset, and I respect the fact that you're doing this because it shows that you do have a growth mindset. At least you're trying to have a growth mindset here. I respect that.
Yeah.
Okay. But you are correct. Like players always say that nobody, that like they don't listen to the outside. Except when no one believes in them, they're very happy to tell you that they hear that everyone.
Good point.
Yeah. So sacks. Okay, I'm a sacks.
Let's talk about sacks, baby.
Yes. I'm trying to say this in a way that doesn't become a drop. Okay, because I know you enjoy making me feel uncomfortable. I am a believer in the power of sacks in football.
The joy of sacks.
The importance of sacks. I said that to Fletcher Cox yesterday. I'm not as much a hurry or pressure guy. Believe in sacks. Okay. So it was pointed out by Shil Kapadia and by us. The Eagles are a bad third down sacks team. That has been clear. And third down sacks are especially important because it gets the opponent off the field, typically, unless it's not a significant sack and they go for it on fourth down. The flip side is the Eagles are a really good first and second down sack team. Actually, they're second in the league this year in first and second down sacks at 26. The only team better is Baltimore at 30. They're up there.
Problem is they just let the offense get a first down on third down anyway.
Oh yeah, so
right.
Yeah, we'll get to that. So I'm saying that I don't think there's an expression that the Eagles use, and I actually think it came from Chris Long that the play doesn't care who makes it, and it's an expression that I like. Well, the down doesn't know what the sack is, right?
Okay.
Trying to think how to frame it that way. I don't think that you're like a good first and second down sack team, but a bad third down sack team. I think if you're either you have a good pass rush or a bad pass rush. Now there are situational things that can do it. If they're in third and long, although theoretically, if you're good at first and second down sacks, you should get them in.
This is like the thing Daniz was talking about the other day, how like the sample size of how they are on first and second down is greater than the sample size of how bad they are on third down. And you would think that over the course of the season, it's going to correct itself a little bit. They're going to just be better on third down because they've been better on first and second down. But we're still waiting for that to happen.
And true to form, Professor Selman, and you say it far more succinctly than I do. But that's the exact point that I'm trying to make. Josh Sweat and Haason Reddick don't forget how to rush the quarterback on third down, right? Like Fletcher Cox, Jalen Carter, they're not like bad third down pass rushers here, okay? So my presumption is that if they're good at getting sacks on first and second down, there's reason to believe that they'll be able to get more sacks on third down. That the outlier, that statistic is an outlier, and it's one that can improve.
Everybody's looking for a little more sacks. That's good.
Yes.
That reminds me of the Chris Long thing. Did you see the Snoop Dogg clip?
I saw you tweeted something about it. I didn't watch the clip.
Oh, you got to watch the clip. Okay. It's great.
Can you explain it to the audience?
Well, they're talking to Snoop Dogg about his high school football career. He was a wide receiver, and they ask him for his player comp. And his player comp is such a wonderful, pleasant surprise. You got to watch it. Before we get to the last round here, Zach, I'm going to talk to you about FOCO. FOCO is a leading manufacturer of sports and entertainment merchandise with a product line that includes apparel, accessories, toys, collectibles, novelty items, and more. It's the best officially licensed gear for all sports and fandoms. It's football and tailgating season. Overalls, hoodies, hats, sunglasses, bags, everything you need for a game. FOCO has hooked PHLY up and provided awesome pieces for our sets. FOCO always has our back for Philly sports, and they have yours too. Get the best gear around by using the link in our description. For all non-presale items, use the promo code PHLY10 for 10% off. All right, Zach, my last one here is about the defense. And we have talked about how slow they've looked at times, especially in the secondary, right? I am thinking that there is a chance here that as Sidney Brown gets a little bit more involved in the defense, Keely Ringo did not look good in that Cowboys game in his first real playing time on defense, but I think the tape is a little bit more kind to him than the broadcast. And I think if you get a little bit of an infusion of youth in the secondary, the linebackers, I don't really have much hope for. I think Zach Cunningham is good. Maybe Shaq Leonard can be a little bit better than Nicholas Morrow, but I don't think that's going to be a good unit. But in the secondary, you can convince me that Sidney Brown on the field, Reed Blankenship getting healthy. Sean Desai has done so much rotation at unexpected positions and less rotation on the defensive line. So it's not like we can really buy that he's been doing this with a grand plan in mind to have everybody ready for the end of the season, because the defensive line is worn down, I believe. I think that is a huge factor in why the defense is struggling right now. However, maybe by happy accident, all of those reps that he's been giving to the guys like Eli Ricks and maybe now Ringo in the mix, by the end of the season, a guy like Sidney Brown will be ready to be a more impactful player on the defense than he has been over the past couple weeks. And you can hope that there is just an arc of improvement with the younger guys on defense.
Yeah, I think that's what they're hoping too, right? Is that you kind of work some of these things out during the season, and then come postseason, you know who you are. So that's a fair point.
There you
It's
go.
probably the weakest of your 4, but that's probably
I don't know. I feel like all of them were pretty weak, except for the actual odds.
Okay. So my 4th one here, and I referenced it earlier, and I'm kind of combining 2 because I actually came with 5.
Okay.
So I'm combining 2 of them here. They have Jalen Hurts, and
The power of Hurts.
they look. This is why you want a franchise quarterback. You want a franchise quarterback because, and we kept talking about it going into last season. And Rich Hoffman, who, by the way, you better be subscribing to the PHLY newsletter.
Or else what?
Well, if you want quality content, I mean,
Okay.
Rich delivers every morning.
Just the way you said it.
It comes right to you, it comes right to your inbox. If you're watching this, you're a fan. Rich is awesome, and he's creative.
No doubt about that.
And he's found his voice comes through. I think he's found a really good form for what he does, and much respect to
Totally
Rich.
agree.
As someone who has done the daily newsletter, that can be laborious. That can be. It has to be the right mix of personality driven, right? Because emails are different than articles, and you want it to feel like someone's just sending you an email, but also informative to the point that you're like, why am I reading this to the end? And Rich does a great job of that. Okay.
What did Emily dislike more, the post-game pods or the newsletter?
The newsletter, for sure. The post-game pods, she just didn't understand why. Like, her perspective was, why don't you just wake up and do this in the morning when you both have slept? And then I gave your argument for A, it's part of the charm, and B, people want it in their feeds when they go to when they go to work. But I don't want to say.
No, you got to go now.
She would always say, well, because my answer would be, this is the way Bo likes to do it. And she'd be like, Bo's not your boss. That's what she would always say.
Yeah.
Because my answer for most things would be like, this is the way Bo does it. This is the way Bo does it. So anyways, I don't mean it in a bad way.
That's okay.
But
she's right.
The newsletter for those, it used to be called Early Birds. I started when I was at the Inquirer. I sent a long email to my editors at the time explaining why I think we could use a newsletter and why there wasn't one like this in the marketplace, and we can corner the market and like newsletters. I think I might have read a piece by Columbia Journalism Review that summer about like the proliferation of newsletters and the power of newsletters. And
they thought to themselves, oh, you're offering to do extra work for free without extra compensation? Sure, go ahead.
So then I'll actually give a little story here, and I certainly hope I'm not speaking out of turn. But I pitched it for, at that point, 2 days a week, okay? And it actually did like really well, and we got a sponsor behind it that they came to me and they're like, could you do this 5 days a week? And I was like, yeah, sure, no problem. I would love that. It's more, but then you still do the Sunday takeout and still write Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday that year. And so that was one of those that Emily was just like, what are you doing? Okay. So anyways, so they have Jalen Hurts. Number one. How did I get into that tangent about the news? I was talking about Rich.
You're talking about Rich.
Excuse me. As Rich, so this is how we went to. As Rich pointed out in that tweet from the playoffs in 2021,
okay,
that Josh Allen versus Patrick Mahomes, it's like a different form of football than the Eagles, right? And that was an example of like, you either have one of those quarterbacks or you need to go get one of those quarterbacks, because you sure as hell can't win without one of those quarterbacks. And the Eagles have one of those quarterbacks now. Jalen Hurts developed into that. And that's a credit to Jalen Hurts. And I say he developed into that because we saw that in the Super Bowl last year. He went toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes. And the other thing I was going to say is that even though I am a point differential guy, and I believe in how that shows you over the course of the year, that point differential does show you the best teams. The Eagles have been in close games. They've won close games. They know how to win close games. Their second half scoring is better than their first half scoring. Now their fourth quarter scoring is worse than the other team, but nonetheless, we've seen Jalen Hurts play well in big moments. That Buffalo game jumps out to me. He turned it on late in that game. and they won.
I'm a little skeptical of they know how to win close games. I feel like
Okay.
that's a thing that evens out over time.
Maybe so. But they've played close games against tough teams, and Jalen has proven he's played his best late in games. They've won 2 overtime games this season, right? So I look at that as a sign that Jalen, like, this is, you can have confidence in Jalen.
So what
Hurts
were the
in a
two
big
here?
moment.
The other it was Jalen Hurts and close games. You said you were combining two.
Yeah, I was combining Jalen Hurts and, like, they know how to win close games.
Okay.
And in the playoffs, it's much less likely that you're going to win these games like you did against San Francisco last year, and much more likely that these are going to be fourth quarter games similar to that Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes game. And you need a quarterback who, when there's let's say 40 seconds on the clock and you have 2 timeouts and you need to go down and score, you need a quarterback who you can be confident can lead you down there. And Jalen Hurts is one of those guys in the league who I'd be confident can lead you down there.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, the thing that we didn't even talk about, like the real biggest thing, is that things change so much.
Yes.
There's 4 weeks left in the season. Things change so much. There are going to be injuries to the teams that are involved. They could happen to the Eagles. They could happen to the Niners. They could happen to the Cowboys. Like, 3 starting quarterbacks went down over the past month, right? There is absolutely the possibility that will happen again. The picture is going to look different in January than it looks now. We just don't know how yet.
That right there is the only certainty we can tell you right now, that nothing stays the same in the NFL. Except
nothing gold can stay, Pony Boy.
Except the Patriots for 2 decades. Yeah.
A Patriots franchise that really is the paragon of football development and identification, and the one that knew that Christian Ellis was worth going to get.
You see, you can't rip on Belichick.
I can't. The guy's a genius.
Until he's the coach of Washington next year.
Haven't lost since they got Christian Ellis. All right. About 10 minutes left, Zach. Let's talk about some of the questions we got from the chat.
Yes.
I noticed one that wanted to know, do you have like a Ben Simmons-like mental inability and aversion to shooting the basketball?
No, I don't, actually. I mean,
Prove it.
I would love to score more. The reality of that is I'm trying to do what's best for my team. And if I'm in a situation where I feel that I can best help my team by bringing it to the basket or shooting more, I'd be happy to do that. I don't think I'm a particularly good scorer. And I think there are other guys on my team who are better. But more importantly than that, you want to be someone who other people want to play with. And if it's like a Monday night league, okay, or you're playing pickup basketball, what's the most annoying person on your team is not the person who's the worst. It's the person who just shoots all the time. It's the gunner, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's the person who has the least self-awareness.
Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. If he's really good, you want him. But anyways, what I'm trying to be is I want to move that ball quickly. I want to play good defense. I want to be value added on the court. Like, that is my only objective, is for those other guys when they say, like, I like when he's on the court.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, actually,
I want you to get yourself some buckets. That's
my
all.
objective is to win. But yeah, I mean, I don't need to. Someone says ZB is the white Draymond Green. I would not pick a fight with Nurkic. I can tell you that. Nurkic is a tough dude. I was in a restaurant one time with Nurkic. He's a big guy.
What restaurant?
A sushi place. Yeah.
In Philly?
In Phoenix. Yeah.
Tell me more.
There's nothing more to tell. I was at a restaurant. Nurkic was there a few weeks ago.
Oh,
yeah.
On the Waymo trip.
Actually, literally, we took a Waymo to the restaurant, and Emily was like, "Is that guy a basketball player?" And I said, "Yeah, that's Joseph Nurkic." And then I think
she said, "Oh yeah, of course."
Yeah. Well, no, she's like, "Do you want to say hi to him?" I'm like, "Why would I say hi to him?" he's.
You should have just gone up to him and told him about the Waymo. Like,
he's out to dinner.
Yusuf, you are not going to believe how we got here.
I'm like, he's out to dinner.
Like, how did you get here, Zach?
I certainly don't have to. I don't have to interrupt his dinner, but yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Next question. Let's see. With the offensive talent on the team, This is from Philly D. Luffy. Are Eagles fans actually less upset than they should be with how the offense operates? It seems lazy of the staff to not even get easier looks for their stars when there are so many of them on offense.
What do you think?
Well, I asked you the question so that you could answer first, but that's okay. I don't know. They're 8th in DVOA on offense. I think that's a little bit underperforming their talent level, especially given that they've been relatively healthy on offense. It's hard for me to say that like everybody shouldn't be angry or should be angrier when I feel like people are a little bit upset and they're 10-3, as we've talked about. But I think there are real reasons to criticize the state of the offense at the moment.
I agree with you. I think that the defense is getting so much blame, if you will. Certainly in the Cowboys game, the offense literally did not score a touchdown. Where I think some of the criticisms are unfounded, or I shouldn't say unfounded because you're free to criticize whoever you want. That's the great thing about being a sports fan. But I think this idea that like Brian Johnson is the problem. I think that you need to look more at the players on the field. I don't think the play calling is the like number one issue with this team. I don't think Shane Steichen was this like magic play caller. Though Shane Steichen's doing a really good job in Indianapolis. But if you have more of an issue, and we brought this up with Baldy yesterday, you need to distinguish between the play design and the play calling. You need to distinguish between the menu and what you choose to eat.
Okay. From Mike, if they don't get the 1 seed, would it be better to win the division and get to play one of the wild card teams at home, but have the tougher schedule next season, or get the 5 seed, have to go play one of the NFC South teams on the road, but with the easier schedule next season?
Well, look, it's a good question. I would take out the next season part of it because
I think so too.
There's really only 2 games that are affected by that. I actually look at it more, would you rather play the NFC South on the road, or would you rather play so let's look at the playoffs, at the playoff seedings. Because the worst, it very well might turn out, the NFC is bad, okay? But it very well might turn out that the worst team in the playoffs is the NFC South winner. At this point, the Packers would be the 7 seed. So if you win the division and you don't have the 1 seed, you'd face the 7 seed, right? You'd face the Packers, or that could be the Rams. It could be the Seahawks, all right? But if you are the 5 seed and you face the NFC South on the road, you're facing either the Bucs, the Falcons, or the Saints. Chances are that team is worse than a team that's surging to make the postseason, unless it's the Vikings and you're facing a bad quarterback. So I guess the question is, which is the easier first-round matchup? At home against the 7 seed, or on the road against the NFC South winner?
I don't think that's the right way to look at it, because I think it's the goal of this team is not to get to the second round of the playoffs. The goal is to get to the Super Bowl, right? And the path to the Super Bowl is much more realistic from the 2 seed than the 5 seed. If you're the 2 seed, you have a home game again. You can't be serious and be scared about the Packers at home or the Vikings at home. And there's a chance then that if you're the 2 seed, the Cowboys are the 5 seed, the Cowboys win their game and they're going to have to go to San Francisco potentially if the other home team, if the 3 seed holds up. Maybe the Cowboys beat the Niners on the road, and all of a sudden you got the NFC Championship game at home if you can handle your business. It's just the odds of getting there are so much better that way.
Good point.
I think.
Good point. And now to the premise of the question.
Now let me ask you this:
the Eagles. Wait, real quick. The 2024 schedule. The Eagles actually play the NFC West team on the road that finishes with the same record as them. So, the same place in the standings. So you are talking about the difference between the 49ers or the Seahawks.
Okay.
Or the Rams.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
If the Eagles lose to the Seahawks, okay, and all of a sudden they no longer control their destiny control their seeding in the NFC East. Yeah, that is not what comes to my mind.
Okay.
All of a sudden it looks like they are not going to win the division heading into week 17. At what point, knowing that this team is tired and you're not going to get a bye, do you start taking the reins off and resting guys?
Oh, big time. Because this is a I guess the Lions would be in the mix there too. So, but actually, you're not
because
gonna
you're not
gonna
competing with the
actually
Lions.
fall to 6 or 7.
If you can't, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to be the 5 seed.
You're the 5,
right.
yeah. Oh yeah. So I would sit my guys for sure in week 18.
2 games? Would you do 2 games?
Not 2 games. I think 2 games you're too rusty. But although that is like sitting last year week 18 and then having to bye. But no, I would sit one game.
I would sit them 2 games.
I would sit one game. Yeah, I would sit that week 18 game against the Giants, which makes for a really annoying drive up to MetLife. It's like the third preseason game or 4th preseason game.
All right, 2 more before we get out of here, Zach. Where was it? Okay, way too early to decide, asks Ryan, but for a team in win now mode, was this draft a huge whiff other than Jalen Carter?
I think it's like literally Tyler Steen was drafted for beyond this season. That's your 2nd pick in the draft. Sidney Brown, I thought he was going to have.
But I think his point is that should they have tried to draft more with now in mind?
Oh, no, I don't think so. And by the way, I said Steen was the 2nd pick. Nolan Smith was the 2nd pick. No, I don't think they should have drafted.
I thought it was. You predicted he was going to be the 1st pick. That's right.
I predicted he was going to be the 1st round pick.
You predicted he was going to be the 1st pick.
I predicted he was going to be the 1st round.
You predicted he was going to be the first of the 1st round picks.
I actually didn't predict them having a pick. I didn't predict them not having pick number 30.
Oh, so then you were wrong on both counts.
No, I was right. He was their 1st round pick. I basically, in the 1st round, I had them taking Nolan Smith.
He went 200% later than you expected him to go.
He went in the round. I predicted the Eagles to take Nolan Smith in the 1st round. They took Nolan Smith in the 1st round.
Yeah, I don't think
so. Basically, unless you pick the player at number 10, it doesn't matter.
When a team has 2 picks and one of them's at 10, one of them's at 32 or 31, and you
30.
Okay, right, because they were only and you predict him to go 10th, you do not get to take credit for him going 30th.
When you pick a player to go in the 1st round,
it's like saying, "Oh, I predicted him to get drafted."
No.
Yeah, you nailed it. He got drafted.
Is that for the past 3 seasons, I correctly predicted the Eagles' 1st round pick. Okay. That is like that.
So what I will do this year, what I will do this year is I will project the Eagles to trade up into the 1st round and have 10 1st-round picks, and I will just pick 10 guys, and as long as one of them goes, I can puff my chest out and say I did it.
It wouldn't shock me if you game the system that way. But yeah, like if I said, I'm sorry, I'll speak slowly and clearly.
This is so unbecoming of you. It's your absolute least like to stand on argument that
if I said in April, listen to my pick here on this show, because the past 3 years I accurately projected the Eagles' 1st round pick.
You're a snake oil salesman in that case. You're lying to the audience.
No, that's literally true. I projected them to take Nolan Smith in the 1st round. They took Nolan Smith in the 1st round. Those are 2 factual statements. I didn't project them.
They are incredibly misleading and dishonest.
There's nothing that literally is the opposite dishonest. That is an honest statement. I projected them.
It's intellectually dishonest. You know it is.
No, I don't know. Yeah, but you know what? We can disagree on this one. But no, I don't think they should have approached last year's draft differently. The only thing is that I do think and I wrote this last week, they should have added more volume at linebacker late in the draft.
Do you think they would have taken Nolan Smith? Like if they could do it again today, do you think they would still take Nolan Smith with that pick?
As opposed to like Joey Porter Jr. or
sure.
Well, certainly he hasn't pushed to get on the field, so maybe they do that pick differently. I would still take Nolan Smith. I'm still a believer in Nolan Smith. The one thing that I hope, by the way, and we talked about this a little bit at the time, I hope they didn't take Nolan Smith because of Jalen Carter, right? Like I hope they didn't spend the 30th overall pick thinking that like Jalen Carter's this world-class player or potential world-class player, and let's make sure that we have this environment for him.
Right.
So let's add Nolan Smith, because like I've spent time around Jalen Carter, and by the way, I don't know Jalen Carter. I've only spent interactions in the locker room, but in talking to other guys, like he loves football. From like this idea that he doesn't practice hard, like the football questions haven't come to fruition at all. What I hear from everyone is this guy like absolutely loves playing football.
It's interesting the discussion about the draft class, because in the summer, everything we heard from the Eagles was like they felt great about this draft class.
Yeah.
Those guys all had a really, really good summer, and they were like, this could be our best draft class in a long time. There's a long way to go to see how these guys do. You know, I'm certainly not ready to close the book on Nolan Smith yet. I think he has had an underwhelming rookie season, no doubt about that. I expected Sidney Brown to be a little bit more of a part of the defense right away. Other than that, you know, they drafted a future Hall of Fame quarterback in Tanner McKee. There's really not much to worry about.
He is your type, that's for sure.
What does that mean? I'm curious. What does that mean?
He's your crush.
Well, yeah, but what makes him my type? I've already identified him. He was part of the core four, but what makes him part of my type? I think he's actually not my type.
Like the classic like big drop back quarterback.
Yeah, that's why he's not my type.
Yeah, the 6'5", 230 pound, stand in the pocket.
Yeah,
that's
my type.
I was watching actually the other day a Football Life on Carson Palmer. It was really well done. But yeah, I thought of you and Tanner McKee when I watched it.
Okay. All right, last one from Mr. Krabs. Who would win in a punt, pass, and kick competition among the PHLY staff?
Bo. Yeah, now Tyler quickly turned around, and Tyler objected to that.
I mean,
Bo is the competitive. He has the competitive zeal.
I would probably care the most.
That Nick Sirianni would appreciate. Like you have that. You're very good at like some of these skill-based competitions. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And punt, pass, kick is a skill-based competition. And I'm trying to think, like,
listen, I would hope that I would win. I'm rooting for myself, but
so
punt, pass, and kick. You got two leg things there. I mean, we got Renee, who is a Hall of Fame soccer player at LaSalle. Like,
okay, fair.
I like Renee's odds.
Yeah, Bodner has the size, that's for sure.
I think Bodner would tell you he's not going to win.
Okay.
I feel like Kyle would feel good about his chances. I saw him kick a soccer ball in the office yesterday. Okay. A little venom to it.
I haven't seen Devon in like in kicking situations. So I'd be curious there. Renee's a really good choice there. I'm not going with Charlie or Bill for that one.
Wow, shots fired.
No, no, they're hockey guys, right? So give them a stick. They're more stick sports, right?
I don't know. Sure, you're digging your own grave here. I'm not going in there with you.
I complimented you, but yeah, I was. I mean, I'll give a quick anecdote here. I was in Madison, Wisconsin with Bo. We're just. It was a nice night. We have a good dinner. A Wisconsin old fashioned in there. And then Bo wants to go to a bar for a drink. Okay, fine. And he sees a Papa shot. He's like, let's play. And I'm like, all right, and I take my ring off because I'm left-handed, so I can't shoot with the ring on. And I'm thinking that like this is just gonna be a friendly competition.
I honestly don't even remember the Papa
Oh my
shot.
God, Bo turns into this like nice amicable dinner companion to all.
This was the beginning of our courtship too. This was our first year together.
Yeah, to all of a sudden like I'm gonna kick your ass, okay? And boy, did you kick my ass in that? And then you want to go again, and I'm like, all right. Let's
at that point, I was probably competing against myself. I wanted to up the score. But if we're talking Papa shot,
yeah, you had like this is the thing. I was shooting like I was thinking of like I'm at the line. Bo
because you don't get your shots in during the week, you had to get them in there.
Yeah, Bo is just
we got to play in the game.
Yeah, just a volume shooter, right there. That is.
I'm not doing a full free throw routine.
That is Papa shot. I was balanced.
Get it in there.
I was balanced, eyes, elbows, follow through. Right. Did you learn that?
One of the more impressive feats I've seen was Papa shot in Minnesota for in the lead up to the Super Bowl. Handsome Rich, I mean, that man can pop some shots. So
St. Joe's prep right there for you,
yeah,
right?
If it's a pop a shot competition, I'm putting all my money on Rich.
Okay.
There you go.
We should get one in the office. And by the way, Bo is very territorial about this ping pong table, but we haven't brought it up on the show.
We have brought it up. I mentioned it.
Okay.
I mentioned it when it happened.
A week ago last week, Shio Kapadia came in here to visit the studio, and
we already talked about it. You don't need to play his game. You don't need to carry his water.
I'm not carrying his water, but he's not here. I at least need to.
He does. He is not a part of this show.
He's not a part of the show. He's part of our hearts, though. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. So I'm Shio, and Shio listens. He's a completist. Okay. So
all right. So we'll have him come back for the rematch. We'll tape it. We'll make some content out of it, and we'll use it that way.
I love that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. That'll do it for this episode of the PHLY Eagles podcast. Thanks everybody for listening and watching. We will talk to you tomorrow, 9:30 in the morning, turning it up just a little bit even earlier. So join us then. That'll do it. We will talk to you tomorrow. And as always, we love you.
We all silly like the mayor.